Hi everyone, it's Luna, and today I'm going to talk about why I hate a video that was posted 5 years ago, because I have nothing better to do with my time. A disclaimer at the start, this video is completely unscripted. I have an idea of some things I'm going to say and do, but it's going to be unscripted, so it's going to be really awkward. There's going to be a lot of me just like stuttering and stuff. I swore that I'm only going to do one take of this, so yeah, we're just gonna see how it goes. And I'll also quickly say, that this is not a video about my opinion on the ZZ CFOP debate, because this is just about why I don't think this video is good because this video has stood as the source of the backstone, the main thing that people rely on for the argument that CFOP is better than ZZ. And so I'm trying to say why I don't believe this video presents a strong argument. I'm trying to explain my issues with this video. So I'm not saying that I think ZZ is objectively better than CFOP. This is not about my thoughts on that. I might do a video like that in the future. But just for the record, I will quickly summarize my thoughts right now. I think that ZZ and CFOP are very close in potential. I think ultimately it depends on the person for which method will be able to take you further. I believe that I am better off for being a ZZ solver, but I also believe that there are many people who will be better off as CFOP solvers. So yeah, I'm going to go through this video. I'm going to keep track of all of the points he makes and the issues I have with the different ones. So yeah, let's get into it. Is this on? Oh my gosh, this is on mute. Give me 1 second.
So,
there we
what's the
go.
topic of today?
There we go.
The topic is ZZ no longer being in the big three, declared by yours truly, Jay McNeil. So, why do I think ZZ shouldn't belong in the big three? Well, we're going to dive into that, but before we do, I need to preface this because there are some things that will be taken out of context, and if I can prevent that in any capacity, that is a good thing. So, when I say ZZ does not belong in the big three, I am talking specifically about two-handed solving. If you haven't figured it out by now, all of my rambles are about two-handed.
That's fair. I'll add right now, my points to this will also be in the context of two-handed solving. I don't think I'm experienced enough when it comes to one-handed or anything else, so yeah.
3x3 solving, because that is what I'm into. That is my thing. So, OH... say what you want about ZZ, I do think it could be comparable to CFOP, but it is still definitely worse than Rue for one-handed. Rue is... I'm pretty sure it's where it's at for one-hand, guys. Sorry to say. And I'm sad about that as well, because I'm one-hand solver, and I'm not using the best method. So that's a shame. What other events could ZZ be good for?
Oh my god. I hate ads. This is stupid.
Meet Grammarly Go. Your go-to solution for
I should have prepared for this more.
Well, I don't think it's particularly good for FMC because none of the big three are really good for FMC. I think we can all agree with that. Multi, no. Three blind as such, no. So there is one event, and I'm not even bullshitting here. You're gonna find this funny, and you're gonna be annoyed about what
here he talks about fate.
I unironically, legitimately
I'm actually gonna try to skip to where he.
Get a bit of a bump, and because of the block,
Yeah,
it's a really big deal. So because of those three things, and because of just like how Z, I'm gonna have to declare you a silly willy. I'm sorry, I just gotta do it. It's not your fault. It's kind of your fault. Also, last thing I'll mention before I get into it, I will not be talking much about Rue in this video. I do believe it is in the top 2 method. I would like a prominent Rue user So I'm just gonna like list out things that I like about ZZ, and then things that I think are like so-so,
Okay.
and then the things that I think are just quite problematic to say the least. So nice things about ZZ. Despite what you may think, I actually think EO has some validity as a step. It is, at the very least, an interesting approach to solving the cube. And with things like EO, you open up the opportunity for things like ZBLL, which is why EO tricks in general.
Yeah, I think the EO thing is complicated. Like, I think, I don't know.
I think have caught on for CFOP. And the other thing is that last layer is slightly improved because of EO, and it's heavily improved if ZB is implemented. So like using ZB with CFOP, but not forcing.
There is a debate about like how much the last layer is improved, which I think in recent years has kind of become the crux of the which method is better thing between CFOP and ZZ, just because like because the whole argument now seems to be, is doing EO during cross worth getting ZB? No, is getting ZBLL every solve worth doing your EO during cross? So, and like the whole idea of that is how much time does it save? I would, from what I know of ZBLL, which is like 2 sets and a little bit of a third, so that's not very much, but I would say it saves maybe 0.5 to 0.7 when I get it, but like my ZBLL isn't optimal and my OLPLL isn't optimal either, so I'm probably not the best person to tell you that, and I only know a couple ZBLL subsets.
Using ZB every time because that's not smart, I think, versus using it every time with ZZ. So basically, because of the way ZZ works, you're going to get ZB more than you are going to get it in CFOP, and because of that, your recall will naturally be a little bit better with ZZ, and as such, that kind of buffs ZB for that method. But if you know anything about ZB, you know how little time it saves, if any at all. So it's not a big pro, but
Saves
it's
a little
I have
time.
to throw it in there and give ZZ credit where it's due, which is not very often, unfortunately. So, things that are kind of so-so about ZZ. RUL block building. So, it can be good.
Okay, now we're getting into the important. So now I'm going. So basically, the argument here is RUL block building is awkward and slow, and I agree with that. But this is a point that only applies to EO line, and this video is called ZZ is objectively. And okay, when this was made, EO line was like the meta for how you do ZZ. So I get it; it's fair. I'm actually going to go grab a good cube for this. I should have prepared for this more. Okay. I could not find my main, but like the whole idea with like that doing block building is awkward because like if you have to like insert this edge, you need to like regrip back, and then like yeah, it's and it can be bad. Also, if this looks awkward, it's because like this is an extremely awkward angle here for me, but like yeah, but here, so like I get that when this video was made, EO line was considered like the go-to, the standard approach to ZZ, but I still think that there are issues because that's not true anymore. He brings up EO cross later in the video and talks about how it's better. So I think that I have a problem with, so I'm going to start with here with the first category where I have issues with it, which is issues that only apply to EO line. So look at my beautiful handwriting. Anyway, so I'll start by RUL block building is awkward. That's an issue that only applies to EO line. So that's first thing. Okay.
Or it can be awkward? Generally, it's awkward.
Agree.
So the reason it's awkward is just to do switching between like righty turning and then having to like, I mean, I'm doing obnoxious regrips right now. I don't know why I haven't really cubed properly all day. But yeah, switching from RU stuff to LU stuff is generally annoying, and especially with overturning thrown into the mix.
I mean, switching from RU to LU isn't that bad, but because there's a bunch of... I can't do it well from this... oh god. Like, RU-L turning can be, like, fine. Because if you learn how to do, like, this sort of stuff. Like... But when you have to, like, repeatedly do that during F2L, so you can't really build up the muscle memory for those solutions, it can be very nasty. So it's not good for F2L. Like, it's fine when you just need to insert the pairs once in a while, like, because that happens in CFOP too, and it's probably faster than rotating, but, like,
But block building, it gets pretty ugly fast. Like, with
I
you
agree.
might have to do something, you know, something like that with, like, an overturning where
Exactly.
like, the grippy starting will not be the grippy finishing, which is...
Yeah, because, like, you have these two edges solved with EO cross, which means you need to
happening at the same time.
undo to
It can get
destroy
really
them.
ugly, is my point. So that's the one thing that's, like, kind of so-so about ZZ. I can't say that RUL block building
I don't think it's kind of so-so. I think RUL block building is just trash.
is always bad. There's going to be some kid from Reddit who comments on how,
Well,
like, this reconstructed solve, it flows really nice here, and, like, yeah, I'm sure...
Well, duh, every method will get solved that just flow nice. RUL block building sucks. Jay is saying it, I agree. I think we don't need to talk about this anymore.
The stars can align, and I'm sure there's good cases, but I think it's more interesting and productive to discuss methods in terms of what will generally happen in the solve.
Of course, I
So that's
agree.
the one thing that's like kind of so-so about ZZ, and then the other thing I don't really like is EO line as a step, and this is just from seeing like all the fast ZZ solvers, and you know, actually I'm not going to say that. Yeah, just from seeing ZZ solvers, EO line as a step, it kind of feels slower than CFOP cross, which makes sense because...
Well, duh. Well, like, okay. EO line, I don't think this really, like, this doesn't really matter because EO cross is obviously slower than cross because you're doing the same, it's just more stuff to solve. And so to argue about EO line is another thing that only applies to EO line. I agree that EO line is slightly slower than cross, but not significantly. I think EO cross is not very much slower than cross, all in all. But yeah.
EO it has a lot more like planning involved, and as such it can take up a lot more of the 15 seconds of inspection to find that EO line as opposed to a CFOP cross.
I don't agree, but I get your point. I don't agree with that, but it's not relevant because EO line is bad.
Which, I mean, makes sense. But then when you realize that step is slower, then in order for ZZ to probably be worth it, like taking LL out of account because it's such a small part of the solve at the high level, or I shouldn't necessarily say that, I just mean small in terms of time. But when you're comparing the fact that EO line is probably slower than cross, then RUL block building has to be faster than F12, and I just don't think it is. So, with that segue, we're going to move on to the things that I think are quite unfortunate, bad, terrible with ZZ. So, like I said, after EO line, which is arguably slower than cross, you can show me exceptions to the rule. It doesn't negate the rule. You have one thing in particular is you have really nasty blind spots.
I agree, but again, that only applies to EO line. Because, like, with EO cross, you have, okay, give me a second, okay, also, this is proof that EO cross can be planned very quickly, because I can already see, you have these two bad edges, that solves 3. Now, once you get to this point, then, like, from this side, you can usually deduce these edges fairly easily. this one you can just kind of, and like with EO cross, it's easier to use edges because they're oriented. So like you couldn't, imagine this edge was like back here. You couldn't like get confused about this edge being yellow red because you know it's oriented, and especially stuff like once you've solved your back right slot, it's really easy to see stuff. Like I could see all my pairs at the same time then. I don't know this CBO well. Okay, well, the blind spots argument only applies to ear line because and even if you're talking about like a blind spot back here, if you solve, there's a 50% chance you'll get one of these as your first pair, and even more likely if you try to force that, which you should. If you're good with ZZ, you should be fairly ambidextrous, so you can kind of use that with both. And even if it was a front slot, you could maybe try open slotting or something. I don't know if open slotting's worth it, but that's an idea.
Like with F2L, like your bad blind spots are like these. I mean, if you're a righty dominant solver, like this is like a half blind spot. This is like a total blind spot for this pair. And then everything else, you know.
I mean, if you're ZZ, you kind of want to be fairly ambidextrous. But even if you're not, the blind spots thing is still better than in CFOP.
These 4 cross edges, it's all Gucci. With ZZ, again, you will have partial blind spot there, bit more of a blind spot over here, and especially back here. But you'll also have a blind spot here and here. So you're looking like this, and you've got blind spots on the bottom face. So I don't know if anyone's ever tried solving a 4x4 with reduction after learning Yao, but having a look on the D face, it gets bad real quick, yo. It's not good stuff. So yeah, like I said before, because cross is probably faster than EO line, the block building would have to be faster than F12. And just so people know, in case you haven't been watching top CFOP solvers recently, the top dudes, they're doing sub 4 F2L including cross. I really don't see the same level of potential in block building. I just don't see it.
I agree.
I don't think EO line plus the RUL block building, the way ZZ was intended to be done by Mr. ZZ.
Okay, this is something that I have an issue. First of all, the original idea for ZZ was EO cross, but just like back in like 2006, people think EO cross is impossible to plan, so they propose just doing EO line instead. And EO cross is very possible to plan. I can do it consistently, and I am not naturally talented at inspection, and I can plan EO cross +1 occasionally. Like, not often, but like a decent amount of the time. So like, it's like, I'm not sure if this is a thing to put somewhere. I don't really agree with that idea. Actually, no, actually no.
I just don't think it can get to that level. And it needs to be able to get to that level for the LL argument to have any weight whatsoever.
Okay, okay, he doesn't give any evidence here, so if he's saying, like, ZZ F2L is slow, EO cross plus F2L is slower, or EO line in this case, but this same argument could apply to EO cross, so okay, which is the idea that if F2L is slower, it is automatically slower, and ZBLL can't make up the time. While I'm not saying I disagree with this, he doesn't give any evidence, so this is an opinion. Okay, another ad. But you see how... But like, I would like to point out that we're over a third through the video, and he's yet to make a valid point against EO cross F2L.
The thing that's kind of annoying and just like generally terrible about ZZ is because block building has more quote-unquote cases, and when I say cases, I mean there's just more like variants to the situations you'll encounter when you're trying to solve blocks. Automation of solutions, automation of, how you solve cases, it becomes a huge issue especially for things like look ahead and keeping your TPS up. Because if you've got all these cases, I don't think it's realistic for someone to learn block building in a truly algorithmic manner. And because of that...
And this is, again, something that only applies to EOline.
Look ahead is just naturally going to be a bit worse than it would be with CFOP, because it just becomes that much harder for you to do look ahead, like I described in my 99% of look ahead video sub-ramble, which you should definitely check out. It's a good video. But yeah, basically you see pieces, and when you're looking ahead, you want to see those pieces, and you want to be able to like draw your attention to something else and solve them without even thinking about it. Just have muscle memory take.
We know what look ahead is, Jay.
Muscle memory to take over with block building. I don't know if the Roog users can really do it that well, and despite that, they're still competing with CFOP. So
Probably the only that's probably the only reason Rue hasn't completely dominated and just taken over top rankings, to be honest. Yeah.
So that causes issues, and then there's also TPS, because if you really want to try and let muscle memory take over and have that look ahead mindset, you're almost definitely going to have to sacrifice TPS. Like no matter what, it's either going to be look ahead or TPS. There has to be some sort of sacrifice.
Again, this only applies to EOline because that's terrible writing, but like, and I know that this video was aimed at EOline, but he goes on to EOCross later, and he strongly says that he's talking about he says that he's talking about ZZ as a whole as well. So I do have a problem with him spending so much of the video talking about only one approach to doing ZZ.
So that's the thing that's pretty sucky about ZZ in my opinion. The last thing I don't really like about ZZ, or second last I should say, I've got the big one saved for last. Because you can't really rotate, or at least you traditionally shouldn't rotate with ZZ, because that's the point of the method. You know, rotations are so slow, they're just so hard to do. Like, I just don't know how to do them, man. They're just really hard and take up so much time.
I agree, rotations don't really matter, but you don't, like, rotations are like, it's better to not have them, but it's not really, but there's not a lot that, like, rotations aren't, it's ideal to not have them, but they're also not that bad. Like, they're not, I don't know, they're kind of annoying, but, like, they're honestly fine. They don't matter too much. It's still nice to eliminate
your
them.
fate is mostly determined for you in the sense that if you have to end with, like, a crappy thing in the back left slot, unless you're willing to do a Y2, then that's just kind of...
Okay, I'm sorry, but, like, first of all, you can get a crappy thing in the back left slot in CFOP as well, and you can get worse things, because, like, maybe, like, this in back left is the worst thing that you could get in ZZ. And that's still not that bad, but in CFOP you could get stuff like, you could get stuff like this, and this in back left is going to be very annoying. Like, that's definitely worse than what you could get in easy. I cannot turn well because the camera angle is actually super awkward. I, like, need to reach really far forward to, yeah. So, So to say that this is a problem with ZZ but not with CFOP, that's actually just not true. So, like, I don't think that's how you spell inaccuracy, but I'm stupid. So, now we have things that only apply to EOline, opinions, as in, like, anything's an opinion, but stuff where he doesn't even provide any evidence, and actual inaccuracies. because, like, I agree that bad last lot cases is a problem, but this video isn't about why ZZ is bad, it's about why it's worse than CFOP, so that argument is a factual inaccuracy, because at least, like, he doesn't, because there's, he does,
I know how you gotta deal with it. The only other exception to this rule is when you have, so let's just say we're doing orange on front ZZ, and then this is our last pair, and we don't know how to do commutators because we suck at cubing, and spend too much time on.
That's still really fast. That really doesn't matter. And, like, you can do this if you want, but honestly, this is still faster. And that's not even a bad case. Like, that's fine. Especially if it's not on last lot.
On Reddit, because you have the edge solved. When you have an edge solved, or even an edge in, like... Actually, with ZZ, it's just whenever an edge is in another slot. So if you got an edge in another slot like that, or like that, then you can rotate, and you can finish the solve as technically rotationless, but you did throw a rotation in there. So that is like an efficiency that could be added to ZZ. However, that would only work when you've already... Basically, there can't be any edges in the U layer that belong in F12, otherwise a rotation will unorient it. However, I don't think this is an efficiency ZZ users are willing to use because they think rotationless solving is like God to them or something. And the real last thing that I really don't like about ZZ, good luck being color neutral with any ZZ variant whatsoever.
Okay, first of all, color neutral ZZ is being done. You have people like Ora and Zaki who are doing color neutral ZZ successfully. So, like, I get that this wasn't happening at this time, but let's watch a bit more.
Neutrality is a big deal. I'm sorry, it just is. Maybe not for Rue, because, you know, Rue's special and it's got all these crazy advantages. ZZ, but, yeah. So, before we move on a bit further...
Okay, he didn't say anything about color neutrality there, and he didn't make a... All he said was color neutrality is a big deal, it just is, and it is in ZZ, and he doesn't give any examples of why he thinks it's important. He doesn't give any examples of what he thinks makes it difficult in ZZ. So this is just an opinion, and honestly, I'm inclined to say this is a factual inaccuracy because people are being color neutral with ZZ, but I don't. I think it's better to put in opinion. So.
I want to first touch on a bit of the historical context of the big three methods. So basically how long these methods have been known, how long they've been in circulation online, and how long we've had prominent people using these methods. So we'll talk about CFOP. It has the longest history by far. Eric Ackersdyke actually informed me a little earlier that it goes back to as early as 1981, although back then they were using CLL and ELL instead of OLL and PLL. But other than that, Cross and F12 were already an established method. So that method, CFOP.
How was your promotion thing? I don't know. Well, I'm so proud of you, Dad. I got you some in the glove.
Maybe the best method. But that method is nearly twice my age. So I'm 20 and CFOP is 38. That kind of blew my mind, honestly. It's nearly twice my age. Like, what the hell? That's kind of messed up. But yeah, so CFOP, I don't think I need to convince people that it's by far the most explored and developed and pushed method in the
I agree.
I feel like that kind of speaks for itself. Now for Rue, I'll talk a little bit about Rue. So it originated around about 2004. Mr. Rue from France, he posted like a website with the method. I think he uploaded some solves. And it did catch on. It's obviously not as popular as CFOP, but I don't think it's unpopular to the point where there's something untapped with the method that's going to like really change everything. I think it's been in circulation long enough, just like CFOP has, that we have like a 99.9% idea of like...
I'm not necessarily saying I disagree with this. I'll get to that later. But I just want to start by pointing out that Jay doesn't give any specific reason. This is inherently an arbitrary idea. you never know when something new is going to show up and for what method it will. He does, like, I'm not saying I think something like that will happen necessarily yet. I'll get to that later, but, like, he doesn't give an example of, like, this method has been in circulation for this long, and it improved by this much because of these things, and therefore, we can, this is where this method stopped progressing and getting better, this is where innovation stopped. Like, he doesn't so, this is I think this is a pretty weak argument, because, first of all, I don't think any of the big three have really had, like, a massive change or innovation in a while, and I don't know. It's... Yeah.
What high-level Rue probably looks like. Although we'll have a ramble on that in the future, hopefully, about my thoughts on where Rue could head based on where CFOP is heading in terms of things like option select, which I don't think I've even talked about on this channel. Option select ramble coming soon, apparently. But yeah, that's like the history of Rue. And then ZZ, it's a little bit younger than Rue, not by that much. So the method website was published by Mr. ZZ in like 2006.
Well, it's, I don't know, because EOCross has just kind of been avoided for so long, so, like, because people haven't really been even trying to use EOCross at a high level in a long time, and I'll just say, like, there have not been very many people trying at a high level to use ZZ. I legitimately would not be surprised if there are fewer than 100 ZZ solvers in the entire world right now. Like,
So that means it's been online for over a decade. And then there was also a Polish queuer who posted a thread on, Polish speed queuing forum of some description that I think helped popularize the method more than it already had been. So if we count the start of ZZ as 2008 instead of 2006, it has still been in circulation for a decade, and we have had semi-prominent queuers using the method, or at the very least we've seen people using the method and, getting sub 10-ish. So, like with Rue and like with CFOP, maybe to a slightly lesser extent, but nonetheless, it has been in circulation long enough that there is a very good chance that we know, I'd say, like, at least 90% of, like, what ZZ is capable of, and...
I'll just say that I disagree, because, like, we weren't seeing improvement in ZZ for the longest time, and then just in the last few years, with EOCross becoming more developed, ZBL algorithms improving, things like LRUL being developed, and, like, BH recognition and such, we've seen a lot of improvement in ZZ, and now we're seeing people get sub-8 averages, and I think that's a really good sign that people are, that, like, ZZ does have a lot more potential to be explored. You can get a lot faster. Like there are two official sub-8. There are two people with official sub-8 ZZ averages, and neither of them know full ZBLL. And I think that's a sign. I think that says something about how ZZ has more potential than has been seen so far.
I really just doubt there's any, like, untapped thing that we just haven't figured out is, like, really, really fast.
One thing that this was actually just a thought that I had, like, a while ago, was, like, okay, of an idea of something that could, which is, being able to look ahead to ZBLL with TV2 recognition, because if you can predict the COLL, like, from here, from here, you could see that you're going to get an L case. You could, like, track track your edge, your two opposite edges in order to be able to, look forward into the ZBLL. Please don't let me have forgotten a ZBLL. No, Oh, shoot, no, wait, no, okay. There we go, okay. That was embarrassing. But, like, being able to track your edges during last swap, so, like, if you can predict the COLL, and COL prediction is a thing, you have, like, Keon can do that for CMLL, and it's the same triggers for last swap doing ZZ, so like, the corners will be affected the same. So COL prediction is possible, we know that. So, like, if you're looking ahead, if you're, like, tracking some edges, I think prediction for ZBLL could be possible, and I think that as an innovation could really change things. And I also kind of feel like EO Cross has been that innovation, and there are other experimental things like EO 2x2x2 that I think have potential. I think there's a lot more development to be done in ZZ and things that could be really revolutionary.
Alright, so that's a mouthful already. Now we're going to talk about what I think the best variant of a ZZ is. And where is this coming from for me? Well, it's coming from anecdote, and you know why? Because ZZ's been around long enough that we've had enough fast people trying to use the method that I think using anecdotal evidence is somewhat appropriate here. So, who's in the context of two-handed, sorry Phil, who is the person that has taken ZZ the fastest in competition? Well, funnily enough, it is a Korean Cuba, and I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, I'm very sorry. I believe it's Haeyeon Kyo-kyung. Yeah, that was terrible. So he's third in Korea for 3x3 average. He's only been to 12 competitions. He doesn't really get to compete. According to this, he's only competed once in 2018, which is very unfortunate because he's a very good Cuba. I wish more people knew about him. Because in the context of this ZZ discussion, he actually is like legitimately more influential than I would say everyone except Phil Yu, honestly. Like him and Phil Yu are like the only two people who've done like anything for this method whatsoever beyond like the Stone Ages, honestly.
I don't agree. I think there's been a lot of development on like the speed solving forums with people like Redstone Tim, but honestly, I don't think this isn't really an argument against the method. So I'll.
So shout outs to those guys. You know, good on you guys.
Stupid ads.
Okay,
like. So now we're on to EO Cross. So okay.
But yeah, what variant of ZZ does Haeyeon? I'll just call him Haeyeon from now on. I'm not going to disrespect his name any further. So what variant does he use? Well, funnily enough, he is mainly a CFOP solver. He has an interest in one-handed, which I believe was why he got into a bit of ZZ. I believe I read a comment on YouTube years ago that said he learned ZZ to practice TPS because having no rotations was a good way to improve his TPS for him. And if you've seen any of his videos, like the dude is like, I legitimately think he might be like the fastest turner, like period. It's hard to tell because of the crappy video quality he has for his videos, but the dude can turn. He can turn. Like, goddamn, he can turn. But anyways, what?
I think this is subtle. Jay's even like dropping subtle hints right now about how ZZF12 is really good for TPS spam.
It does. Haeyeon use? Well, he uses EO Cross. Yay!
Yay! We're finally to the relevant part of the video. We're at 17 minutes. We're 18 minutes in, and we're finally hearing points about the actual way that people are doing about the actual best variant of ZZ.
Much more basic than block building, but more effective.
Of course.
Ain't that great? Ain't that more good news? Just like knowing your method is good for feet. So yeah, he's used both. So that's most of what you need to know about this guy. He also has held the ASR average back in 2015, which he got with CFOP and not ZZ, because ZZ can't really get records anymore.
Could it ever? Okay, seriously, I think ZZ it has a lot of potential to get records in the future, but, like, it hasn't really yet. Mostly because, like, nobody has used it. And because this video basically killed, like, 80% of the ZZ community. I'm not salty.
Yeah, and I believe the fastest official average he's gotten with ZZ EO Cross variant is about low 8. And I believe
Yeah, it was 8.06.
his official single was done with EO Cross at 5.91, which is, I believe, the fastest ZZ variant solved by far, officially.
Intentionally,
And
I think.
assume his low 8 averages are better than anything else anyone has done, because if someone was getting sub 8 with ZZ, I swear to God we would have heard about it by now. Surely they're not in the shadows. Surely.
Okay, here he makes, like, an argument that, like, the fact that nobody's gotten sub 8 with ZZ officially shows that it's kind of not possible. At least that's the vibe I get. And, like, I grant him that at this time this hadn't happened, but, well, people are getting sub 8 with ZZ now. Yoruba has a 797 official average. Dale has a 729 official average. So, yeah, ZZ can be sub 8. I mean, it can be sub 7, but officially it has gotten to low 7, and that's a big deal. Like, and a low 8 average is still impressive. Like, I still think that an 8.06 average, when so few people use the method, is, like, that is a sign that ZZ has a lot of potential.
If they're getting official sub 8s, we should
Especially since Hyun didn't use any ZVLL.
have heard about them. So, yeah, that's pretty much where I'm coming from. Yeah, and I want to reiterate this again because I know someone on Reddit is gonna come in here with his pitchfork. Again, because of how long ZZ has been around, it's been around for a decade at least. It's been known. It's been used by speedcubers. I think we have sufficient reason to accept the anecdotal evidence that EO Cross is the best proven way to do ZZ.
I agree that EO Cross is definitely the best way to do ZZ. I don't really think anecdotal evidence has proved that, or at least it hadn't at this time. But, like, but EO Cross ZZ definitely has not been used to the level that it needs to make that conclusion. And again, I'm not saying that it's better than CFOP. I'm just saying that I don't think this video provides a good argument.
I really have little reason to believe there's a breakthrough we've somehow missed. And you know what? I'm going to entertain this idea because I'm that nice. Even if, hypothetically, there is a breakthrough we have all missed somehow, it doesn't exist yet. It doesn't exist, and there's really no point whatsoever trying to compare CFOP and RU to a non-existent method. That is not a productive discussion. So I'm going to go ahead and say that EO Cross is the best known variant for ZZ. It's not exciting, it's not Quincy.
Meet Grammarly Go, your go-to
Yeah,
solution for
right.
getting quality work done quickly.
But it gets you fast times, and that might be what you care about more. Look at my last ramble about mindset.
We're 20 minutes in right now, exactly, and he's just gotten to the part where he's addressing the best ZZ variant. That says something. Never mind.
That in practice. So, now that we have that established, it then becomes a kind of simple question because we've now reduced ZZ to effectively EO Cross. It becomes a very simple question when we're comparing ZZ to CFOP. Don't know how it compares to RU. Someone else can make this video for RU. Please, Keon. Please, Yuri. Someone. It becomes an easy question in regards to CFOP versus ZZ, though. Is doing EO before the cross better than doing partial EO before the cross or doing no EO before the cross? Those are the three options. So you can do full EO where before your cross or / during your cross, you orient all your edges, so rotational assent to what
During your cross, that's very important, and EO then cross is just worse than C4, but if you can do EO cross with influencing, it's so much better. Like, I think EO then cross is like 12 moves or something, maybe a bit less if you're X2Y neutral, but like, oh, I didn't mention that earlier with color neutral. X2Y neutral is, I think, enough for ZZ. It's really helpful, and it's very fast, but anyway, EO cross, top solvers can consistently get like 8 moves. I can consistently get 8 to 9 or so. And my EO cross solutions are decent. They can definitely be improved, but like, yeah.
Well,
Although I think most of the improvement in my EO cross will come from better planning and more ergonomic consideration and looking for first pair. But, like,
and ZB last layer is available to you. The other option is just orienting your F2L edges.
that's easy top, and that's garbage because I don't think that partial EO is like significant. It's like maybe the tiniest bit better than full EO, but you get a significantly worse last layer and worse F2L because you no longer have the look of headed benefits. So yeah, that's just not worth it. That's trash.
And you would still do CFOP last layer, but you would have rotationless F2L. And then there's the last option of no EO whatsoever. You can't just isolate last layer EO but not F2L EO because the rotations and inserts will just mess those edges up. So that's not a real variant. It's either full EO cross, partial EO cross, so basically rotationless F2L cross, we should say, and no EO whatsoever. So we'll go through the steps of CFOP one by one, starting with cross, then a little bit onto F2L, and then finally a little bit on LL, because it really doesn't take long to prove that ZZ is worse than CFOP. I'm sorry.
He made that statement without having given any reason to believe that, so you should probably not do that.
I'm really, really sorry. I'm not sorry. Cross, in my opinion, with either partial EO or full EO, the fact that you have to do EO, without a doubt, makes executing and planning your cross slower because there is...
Definitely, but I think it is... I don't think it is by a high... I think it is by a small amount. It's not by a yes, the cross becomes worse, but I don't think it becomes, like, significantly worse. Like, CFOP cross is maybe 5 to 6 moves, EO cross is like 8 moves. That difference is, it's not negligible, but it's small enough that, like, if the F2L and last layer was a lot better, it could make up for that. I'm not saying that it is made up for, but, like, EO cross alone compared to cross, it's not a significant enough difference that it can't be made up. Like, because ZBLL is, like, because, never mind.
More information that you have to take into account. So, why is this problematic?
Because it would be like if I was saying that just, like, ZBLL is objectively better than OCL or PLL, so that undoubtedly makes the last layer faster, so it's easy, it's just better than CFOP. Yeah, that's one argument, but you need to consider that, like, you're not just doing a slower cross in ZZ, you're doing a slower cross to get a better rest of the solve.
Well, in my opinion, this is problematic because inspecting first pair in CFOP, in my opinion, is one of those fundamental skills that can basically take you to the next level in terms of cubing. I've seen it.
I agree, but I also think that planning first pair is definitely possible in ZZ. I'm not sure if anyone does it 100% of the time, but there are definitely people who do it over 50% of the time. And I think I can get to that level. Like, right now, I'm planning EO cross +1 maybe 20% of the time, but I definitely think I can improve. I've gotten better at it, and I hope that one day I will be able to do it every solve, and I'm going to work on that. And I think if I can get to this level, then that really proves that overall planning EO cross +1 consistently is possible.
It happens so many times with my clients where I've gotten them to go from just planning cross to planning first pair, and then they just, like, drop a second. Not like a whole second, but like...
I agree, and do you realize how fast ZZ will become once people who are averaging, like, low 7 get to that point? It's going to be really fast.
They, like, get to that next, like, barrier just because of that. So I'm a very strong believer of planning first pair and cross and inspection being a very, very, very important thing, and a very important
I agree.
CFOP. trying to plan first pair when you're also planning EO, whether it be partial or full, this is going to restrict the options you have in terms of what pair you can choose, because you have to do the EO. You just can't. It's got to be done.
The first pair, however, you have far fewer cases for your first pair, so I definitely think it's possible. Because, like, fast CFOP solvers consistently plan first pair plus an X cross. Not consistently like every solve, but very frequently. And I think that if, like, it's definitely possible to do so in ZZ.
It's the method. So you gotta plan a first pair.
And even if you can't, look ahead is still really good into first pair. That definitely is not an excuse for not being able to plan first pair. But it does mean that this effect is probably smaller than expected.
That is slightly more restricted, and I don't know if you've ever tried planning first pair yourself with just CFOP. It is difficult.
As someone who has tried a lot to get to planning first pair with ZZ, I agree, it's difficult, but it's definitely doable, and it's not too bad.
There is a lot of nuance and crap you have to deal with planning first pair. It can be a pain.
There we go. Okay. We are 23 minutes in, and he just made his first fair point. Inspection is hindered. And I agree. I don't think it's by that much, but this is a legitimate criticism. And even if planning first pair is easy as possible, you can definitely inspect more in CFOP. So, yeah, this is fair.
Having that added restriction in terms of what you can even do to plan the first pair, I think is quite problematic. And then even that aside, because you're planning partial or full EO, you're going to have less time during your inspection. It may not be more than a couple seconds, but when it's 15 seconds, a couple seconds...
I don't know. I think it's... I think that... But top CFOP solvers you very rarely go up to 15 seconds of inspection, and that's the same for top ZZ solvers planning just EO cross. It's definitely doable. And...
That's like at least like, 10%-ish. 3 seconds is... I'm not going to try to do math here. I haven't done math in years.
Thank you, I hate it.
But yeah, those two factors are the main things that make cross a bit problematic with EO cross or partial EO cross. Restriction and less time that you can dedicate to finding that first pair to begin with. So let's move on to F2L. F2L. So with both of these methods, whether it be EO cross or partial EO cross, it's rotational as F2L. That's like the main benefit you're getting. That's kind of why we're doing it. That's the rationale.
I disagree. I think rotationless F2L is like... Not... The rotations don't matter as much. It's more about getting really fast, spammy 2-gen solutions and having fewer cases so you can do stuff like pseudo-slotting and multi-slotting more easily, and more importantly, and probably more importantly, DBLL. I don't know.
And this is going to annoy people, especially people on Reddit, but screw it. Rotationless F2L. It's been talked about as long as CFOP has existed. And how long has CFOP existed? Nearly 4 decades. Needless to say, there's a reason it has never caught on at the top level.
The rotations, because rotations don't matter that much. But that doesn't... But rotations aren't bad, aren't good, but they're not bad either. They're just kind of fine. They're a little bit annoying, but they're okay. You know?
Thanks for others not being smart enough to realize that Cuba 420 on the RCuba subreddit was right all along.
That is actually quite funny.
Rotationless F2L is super overrated. Rotations have benefits, and rotations are not hard to do quickly.
Almost like the same thing applies to doing L moves.
On to last layer. And the only comparison I think we need to make here is with full EO cross, because I think by this point,
Thank you.
we've already proven the partial EO cross is just not worth it, because the cross becomes worse and the F2L becomes worse.
Hold on, the F2L doesn't become worse. You never he said the F2L becomes worse right there, but he didn't give no reasons for that. All you said is removing rotations is overrated, and that's true, but you didn't talk about any of the nuances and intricacies of ZZ-F2L compared to CFOP, so. That is an opinion with no evidence to back it
And
up.
the LL is the same as CFOP. So it's worse. So partial EO cross is worse than CFOP. What about full EO cross? Well, in my opinion, in my humble opinion,
In your humble, objectively measurable opinion, of course.
the only way EO has a chance of winning, EO cross rather, is with ZB. And this is going back to what I said earlier in the video.
I don't think it's the, I do, and honestly, I agree. I think with ZZF2L, I think EO cross with OLL, PLL it's fine. It's still a really good method, but I don't think it can beat CFOP at the top level. But ZBLL isn't that hard to learn. It's a lot of algs, but they're pretty simple. And top CFOP solvers also use a lot of ZB and OLCP and stuff at this level, so it doesn't really matter.
So for the 99% of ZZ users who picked up ZZ for the sole reason to avoid learning full OLL, this argument will fall flat on its face, and now you know that CFOP is what you should be doing to get the fastest times.
I think that's kind of just it's a bit of a personal attack, but that is kind of relatable, so sure.
With full ZB, however, I will concede, like I did earlier, that due to getting ZB on a comparatively more infrequent basis with CFOP than you would with ZZ or EO cross, although we don't really need to talk about ZZ anymore because we know it's worse than EO cross.
ZZ is EO cross. It is the original way that ZZ is done, and it is the standard approach today. And it's just like you said earlier, CFOP started out as CLL, ELL, but it is still CFOP even though it evolved and changed. All methods do that, but and obviously a method completely changes, then that's a big deal, but ZZ it's not. I am a firm believer that EO cross is ZZ, and that to say it doesn't count is just kind of ridiculous. It's just kind of ridiculous.
ZB becomes slightly faster when using EO cross because you get it more on a more frequent basis, you have more chances to recall things, and you can just strengthen that muscle.
And because you have fewer last slot cases, you can get more information for your ZBLL during last slot.
Quicker and also
like you can, if you know you're going to get ZBLL, you can look at stuff like the patterns for the OCLL to predict that, or as I said before, COL prediction, or with TV2 stuff in the future, possibly even full prediction.
To a higher level, in my opinion. I think it does actually raise the ceiling on ZB. But at the end of the day, we're talking about ZB here. ZB, guys, ZB. We're talking about less than a second here, in my honest opinion.
I agree, but I also think that EO cross sacrifices less than a second as well. So you sacrifice less than a second to have less than a second of time made up for you. Seems reasonable to me.
As such, since the problems I mentioned before almost definitely outweigh the half a second you might say with ZB, ZZ...
Yeah, let's say, okay, he said almost definitely outweigh, but he didn't actually give any evidence. The only thing he said was inspection is hindered. You can plan first pair on ZZ. Top CFOP solvers, a lot of top CFOP solvers still only plan one pair, and they're still sub 7. Some of them are bordering on sub 6. So this is just an opinion with no evidence.
Whether it be EO cross, partial EO cross, proper ZB, proper ZZ with the block building EO, the weird phasing thing where you force lost like half the ZBs,
Yeah,
which aren't
that's
even
bad.
the better ZBs generally.
Yeah, B is bad.
ZZ has to be objectively worse than CFOP, thus reducing the big 3 down to the big 2. Woo! So now it becomes a much more interesting discussion, in my opinion. What's better between RU and CFOP? I think
So
that's a
you
pretty
just
interesting
finished
discussion
and you
because they
literally
are
make
very
one
different methods, and I
legit
think it's very hard
criticism.
to quantify and compare the steps effectively. I know Keon has a presentation on it, and I think it's like the best one there is, but I don't know, it really takes... I feel like it's going to take someone who's gotten to a high level with CFOP and also RU to really present like any super good intellectual argument. But nonetheless, I would really appreciate it if a high-level RU solver made basically the video I just made, but with more of a like RU framework and comparing the steps of RU to CZ. I think the main comparison that would be made is the fact that both methods are rotationless and have a large 2-gen aspect to them, although RU more than CZ. So yep, that's my argument as to why I believe ZZ is without a doubt worse than CFOP. It could be a bit more comparable for one-handed, but I don't know how much better it would be. I would still think EO Cross is the best variant there. And now that I think about it, if you got ZB on lock, EO Cross ZZ probably better than CFOP. Actually, I'm pretty sure.
I agree that EO Cross ZZ is better than CFOP for one-handed, but EO Line is still pretty good for one-hand.
And you do EO Cross ZZ instead of trying to block build. Although I guess block building is a bit easier to finger trick one-handed than it is two-handed. So I don't know. But I mean, ZB's got to be in the mix. CFOP might be like the third best OH method, which is kind of an interesting tidbit. So, like,
I don't think that CFOP is the third best OH method. There's definitely stuff like Leor, which is better than it.
yes, there's that. But again, this is all framed in the two-handed context. And I think in the context of two-handed, it's the big two. It's RU and CFOP. And the only way ZZ gets thrown into the mix is with feet. And once again, feet's going, guys. It's long gone. Well, it's not long gone, but it's going to be. So, yeah, it's just kind of the big two now, guys. I'm sorry. That's it for this ramble. I hope you enjoyed. Please don't cry.
No. Okay, so as you can see, there are 11 points that were made against ZZ in this video. 5 of them only applied to EO-Line. 4 are opinions with no actual, nothing to back them up. 1 was a factual inaccuracy, and only 1 was a legitimate criticism. And even there, he didn't put a great argument for it, in my opinion. So once again, I'll say my own opinion on this debate is something for another time. But I do not believe that that video presents a good argument against CZ as a method. I think it's, and okay, I should have said this at the start of the video. I'm not trying to attack Jay or anything. I know that there is absolutely no way in hell that Jay is ever going to see this video. But Jay, I saw you at Nets. Your 4.9 was amazing. But like, I'm not trying to attack him. I'm trying to say that I think this video is bad. I enjoy his other content. I respect his opinion, and I respectfully disagree, and I do not think he presented a good argument here. If you disagree with me, feel free to leave it in the comments. I know that there is absolutely no way anybody is watching this far into the video. If you're watching this far into the video, leave a comment about Octopi or something to let me know that you're still here. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this ramble. It was... Never mind.